College athletics has gotten so out of hand that the president is having to step in. Does this benefit Iowa State? I think so. And we're talking about it today on Locked On Cyclones.
You are Locked On Cyclones, your daily podcast on the Iowa State Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Shout out to you for being here every single day and making this your first watch or listen of the day. I appreciate it more than you know. Wherever you're watching or listening, be it on YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform, be sure to hit subscribe so we can prove once and for all that it is, in fact, a Cyclone state. Very interesting news cycle today that we're going to be yapping about. First thing, President Trump creating a college commission for the college athletics as a whole. What does that mean for Iowa State? What does that look like moving forward potentially? Very exciting news there. And then we're going to talk about Clemson and Notre Dame, what they're doing, why I think maybe Iowa State should be doing the same thing, and what that would look like. And then finally, softball. I know we don't talk about it a ton, but they play their Big 12 tournament game tonight, and we have to talk about it. So we're going to get into all that and maybe even more. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Now, I think we can all agree college athletics is at a very interesting spot in history. I don't know if it's ever looked anything like this. And to be honest, I don't know if it'll ever look anything like this again. Some are probably big fans of it, probably the agents of these players, big fans of how it looks right now. But I think for the most part, people are not the biggest fans. There are things that could be better. And it looks like one of those people is President Trump, as he is creating a commission on athletics, college athletics. I don't know a ton because there isn't a ton released, but I do know this. The concept of a commissioner for college football, that this is not a commissioner, this is a commission, which is different. And also, I'd like to clear this up. I thought this was going to be like, I guess it's because I'm in my job searching mindset. Like, you sell a house, you get this much percent. That's what I thought when I read this initially, the headline. It's not that. It's like a group of people trying to figure out what's wrong and how can they make it better, basically, is my understanding of it. So that's probably good, I feel like. I feel like it's probably good to have people assessing a situation and figuring out how we can make it better. I think that's probably a good thing, even if they make no changes. At least we had somebody take a look and say, yeah, that looks good. Like, putting attention on it is good, in my opinion. And so the commissioner concept is one that I think people have kind of thrown around with the NCAA being what it is, and like the public perception of the NCAA and what they kind of do and what they don't do, and all of these things. Like, think that there was a lot of conversation of we kind of just need someone who can run this ship, who can man the tides, raise the sails, if you will, steer the boat. I don't know that many boat analogies, but the point is, this is not the commissioner, but I do think this is maybe a step in the right direction. And like I say, we don't have a ton about known, kind of about this, but it seems like some potential issues that could be addressed are the transfer portal, obviously, unregulated booster pay to athletes, something that we've talked about here as well. Athlete employment status with universities, Title IX, rev share, maybe even conference membership and TV contracts. That feels like they're getting a little bit kind of out of their wheelhouse. I don't know if that's just a pontification, if that's even the right word to use there, or if that's just something they've released. I have no idea. But it, oh no, that is a quote, allegedly. So that's where they're going to be. The TV contracts and conference makeup, that seems like a little bit different than the other stuff, but I guess if it's going to make things better, that's good. It seems like, because this is a group of people, there's going to be a couple of like business people and whatever, but one name that is very much in this potentially is Nick Saban. Now, President Trump gave a speech at the University of Alabama, and like Nick Saban introduced him, and you know that they had some chats. You know, we should do this, we should do that, we shouldn't do this, whatever. And this, I guess, was on the agenda. Maybe this is over coffee one day. I don't know what the president does, or even what Nick Saban does. Do they drink coffee? I don't know. But the point is, I think Nick Saban's probably, and now I didn't know that this would be maybe controversial. I think he's the best person for the job. I think he is. Some people, I guess, don't want him running it because the way he was successful, he wants it to look like that, and people don't want it to look like that, allegedly. I don't think that's necessarily either the case or even a bad thing. Like, at least it would be a way that works and we know it. And I don't know. Like, you don't want to go back to not paying the athletes. That's not what I'm saying here. But the way that it is now is so off the rails that I don't even know where we're at. You know, it's just chaos at all times. And is that good? I don't know if that's necessarily great. There are some, it's going to be a whole group of people. And so we don't have any names, not even Nick Saban. I don't believe is officially named. I think it's just like, I think understood, if that makes sense. And obviously they're going to have, things to do. They have, it says here, Berman and others have until Wednesday to address concerns that prevented U.S. District Judge Claudia Wilkin from granting approval to the deal last month. And so obviously that's been a whole thing that's been going on with the rev share. If you're not familiar, basically trying to give make the schools pay from the revenue generated. They can use up to 22% of athletic revenue generated, and that money caps out at $20.5 million. We talked about what Jamie Pollard said on the Spotlight with Elijah Moore was the podcast, and how Iowa State is at a severe disadvantage there. I guess, and that's wild to me. I've still been thinking about it, and that's a crazy situation. What basically he said was that other schools, because the school and the athletic department aren't the same. They're not the exact same. So the school can like give the athletic department money in other states and whatnot. So, because not in Iowa, and I'll get to that in a second. And so, like, I believe he said it was ASU, Arizona State, is putting $50 million a year into their athletic department, and 20.5 of that, I guess, is what could go towards the athletes. So I don't see where that's not necessarily what I'm seeing as the shortcoming for Iowa State. It's more that now ASU can use that 20.5 and the revenue they generated and the remaining 30, what would be 29.5 or whatever, towards like facilities and things of that nature, which Iowa State has been on record of like pausing other, projects and whatnot to be able to make these ends meet. I said I'll get to it later. Right now, the Board of Regents doesn't allow Iowa schools to do that. So there is no money from the University of Iowa State that is going towards the athletic department of Iowa State. Like they are not connected in that way. Jamie Pollard did say that there is money set aside, so they're going to be okay for a while. And I wonder if in that time is when things will get figured out and Iowa State will be fine. I think this is probably good. I don't know what they're going to decide. I don't even know who's going to be on the board. I don't know what the timeline for this looks like at all. But I do think having a commissioner is a good idea. But maybe I'm alone in that. But I think we can all kind of agree that at the very least, having someone or a group of people take a look at a situation and say, this is what's wrong, this is how we should fix it, or even just identifying, this is where we could probably get better on more than like, well, that doesn't seem okay. Because that's kind of what I do. It's like, that feels like maybe we don't know what we should do. And I don't even really know what's wrong there, but that feels wrong. If they can actually nail down specific things that need to be changed that are hurting the game and find a way to change those things, right? That feels like a good thing to me. And I do think that Iowa State is one of those schools that will benefit. I'm sure there are schools like Georgia or Texas or, these big name brands, Alabama, that won't see the same benefit and maybe even will see like a little bit of a hindrance from these changes that are allegedly going to be made. Maybe, I don't know. But I think if there is a school that's going to benefit, Iowa State is that school, because it feels like we're at a lot of disadvantages here in the current how it's all sitting. So any changes, not any changes, there are going to be changes that could be made that would hurt Iowa State, but for the most part, I think the changes would benefit a school like Iowa State. But that being said, maybe Iowa State shouldn't rely on other people making these changes to get things right, if that makes sense. And we're going to have to talk about, coming up after this, what I think Iowa State could do in the future to kind of man their own ship, to stick with that analogy, right after this. There's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with Game Time, you can be part of it without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game Time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when demand is sky high. Prices on the app actually go down as tip-off gets closer, and their last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. I use Game Time because the all-in pricing means no surprise fees at checkout. What you see is what you pay, and obviously, saving up to 60% off last-minute tickets for sports is great, but they also have tickets for concerts, comedy, theater, you name it, they've got it. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. So I mentioned Iowa State could probably make some moves to benefit themselves, is kind of what I was trying to say at the end of that one there. And I think this move could be one of those. Let's talk about Clemson and Notre Dame here at Locked On Cyclones, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Clemson and Notre Dame have agreed to a contract. I guess it's a contract, but it's a scheduling agreement where Clemson and Notre Dame will play each other once a year through 2038. Now, when I read that, immediately I said, wow, that's 13 years. I feel like you don't see contracts. Even contracts for like players or coaches. 13 years is a long time. So I immediately was like, wow, that's quite the commitment there. But then you look at what each team stands to gain from this, and I think it makes sense. Now, I guess this is going to happen whether or not Clemson's in the ACC, any other sort of kind of movement. This is a non-conference game from what I understand, and this is going to benefit Notre Dame because they'll play a big name early in the season, and this benefits Clemson because of the new things that the ACC was kind of they're proposing, I guess, this new era of revenue distribution, which entices Florida State and Clemson, who, remember, were suing the ACC. It tries to keep them in the league. Basically, it's like revenue is tied to TV ratings. And when Clemson is going to play a big name like Notre Dame in the, I guess, the non-conference, then that's going to help with TV ratings because, Notre Dame's national brand. Everybody loves Notre Dame, apparently. Their helmets are sweet. That it's good for Clemson, it's good for Notre Dame. That's what I'm trying to say here. But I want to get to the part where this matters for Iowa State. Could Iowa State do the same thing with Notre Dame? Feel like this is kind of one of those where they get one, it feels like. I don't know if Notre Dame's going to want to play the same non-con every year, which is what this would basically turn into if maybe Iowa State and Oregon were like, yeah, we should do that same thing. And I guess one more team, maybe Georgia. Then Notre Dame plays Iowa State, Clemson, Oregon, and Georgia every non-con. I don't think that's what they're looking to do. So I don't know if Iowa State can do that per se, this exact deal. But I do think it, and this is like kind of like Iowa, right? Like Iowa State and Iowa play each other every year. And I don't know how, it feels like some of this is going away with even Farmageddon kind of dissolving. That's more of a Big 12 thing. But, and I don't even remember when that is, like 2032 or 2033, maybe. But getting a contract in with a big team early in the season in that non-conference slate, you can play anybody, right? And you can boost exposure. Now, Is Iowa State and the Big 12 doing this rev distribution with TV deals? No, to my knowledge, but there are other tokens in this bag of tokens. There is the concept of potentially TV ratings playing a role in the college football playoff, which I think, for the record, is a load of malarkey. Wow, I can't even say it. I don't think that's good. I don't think that doesn't make any sense to me. I want to make that very clear. But if that's the avenue we're going to go down here, feels like Iowa State should find a way to boost ratings somehow, even if it is in the non-con. Not that the Big 12 doesn't pull numbers, because they're solid numbers. Maybe not the best, which is why I don't necessarily love it. But if you could grab an SEC school and play them every year, and you home and home it or whatever, you go to Georgia and then they come up to Ames, I think that'd be great. I do. The other side of it, though, is can Iowa State make a deal with a team of that caliber that would really change the game? I don't know what Iowa State would have to offer. I think Iowa State is in a tough spot here. Obviously, Clemson, been down in recent years, not quite on that same level as, when Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson were there, balling out. They're not quite that good anymore. But Death Valley is still absolutely legit, and they are still a very much like name brand. Like when you look at the ACC, Clemson stands out, and Miami probably stands out as well. FSU kind of in that conversation. I'm not going to go through the whole conference, but I do think that Clemson is kind of that type of deal. Still very good, very good team. Won the ACC last year, and there's what I'm saying is they've got a little leverage. I don't know if Iowa State has that leverage. Iowa State might have to win a few Big 12 championships or regular seasons to do the same thing in the football world. In the basketball world, I think Iowa State, one of the I'm not saying anything against Jack Trice. Jack Trice is absolutely great, but Hilton is better. And Hilton is better in comparison to Jack Trice, and Hilton is better in the landscape of basketball arenas across the country. So when you compare Jack Trice to, Death Valley or, the Shoe or all these other, even Penn State's whiteout game, I don't think it's quite the same as like Hilton is widely known as a very electric place to play basketball. It's a tough environment. I feel like maybe not the right word, but it's certainly up there with like, it is so loud in there. If you haven't been, you got to go to a game. It's so loud. All of that to say, like, for basketball, there's a little more leverage, I think, for Iowa State. And it doesn't really matter for basketball. I don't think on the basketball side of things, this is a huge deal, a deal that needs to be made. But football wise, I do think it makes sense. And you're in front of a bunch of eyes, even if you don't get the revenue from the TV deal, specific, like directly, like the ACC is doing it or whatever, or if they don't end up doing the rankings or the ratings, I guess, rather, for college football playoff. Like, I still think that this is great for the school and for the reputation of Iowa State. Now, if you go out there and you agree to play Alabama every year and you just get walloped every year, that's probably not great for the brand. So you kind of got to know the line there. But also, what if Iowa State beats Alabama every year? Now Iowa State, Ames, Iowa, the powerhouse, right? And so I think that there's an element, and this would be a really cool way to like either cherish a rivalry. Like if you play Kansas State every year in the non-con, probably couldn't work because it would then technically be non-con and you can't face them during the conference season, or how there'd be weird rules about that. But like that rivalry, Iowa, yeah, we do that kind of already. But I don't feel like that's like moving the needle as much as like if you're going to swap out, Arkansas State, no hate, but like if we could play, what if we played Oregon every year, a Big Ten school, like I guess I was a Big Ten school, but a bigger name, very good team out on the West Coast. Like, I think that could be a really cool thing it's more travel too, though. Really cool thing for the team. I think it's advantageous to at least start those conversations. I do think that Iowa State would stand to benefit from that. Clemson, Notre Dame, think this is a great deal. I think that they made a right play here, but want to see Iowa State kind of follow in those same footsteps. Speaking of Iowa State making leaps and bounds and great plays, We're going to have to talk about softball and their upcoming Big 12 tournament game tonight, right after this. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? Turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. Dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and Avowed as easily as you stream your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. I am personally a huge fan of how portable it is. Lugging the huge Xbox around just isn't always ideal. Head to Amazon.com/FireTV locked on to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. Available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K, 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max, 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube, 3rd Gen. So we've been kind of talking some football up until this point, but let's switch gears and talk about the softball game that's about to go down tonight. 7:30, Iowa State in the Big 12 tournament. Going to be taking on BYU or Houston. At the time of this recording, I don't know who has won that game, so we're going to kind of cover both of them. But first, let's talk about Iowa State. Obviously, we've talked about them a little bit, just not as much as probably we should have, considering how historic of a season Iowa State has had. They earned their highest finish in the Big 12 in Big 12 history, getting 3rd there. So that was an unbelievable finish, obviously. But now they got to look towards the tournament. And in this tournament, obviously with this big game, this first round game, we'll look at some of the players, but it is worth mentioning that in the last few years, Iowa State has done well and has won at least one game in every tournament since 2018. So there is some precedent of Iowa State being successful in these tournaments, though. You'll see why in just a few minutes. This one going to be maybe some hard-fought battles. Let's put it that way. For the Cyclones, couple really big names here. Jessie Clemens, the unanimous first team all Big 12 member. She's on the all freshman team, and that's going to be a bit of a theme here as I introduce some of these people. Batting average of 373, leads the team at 13 doubles, and tied Serenity Trice for the most hits at 63. Serenity Trice also on the all freshman team, and then leads the team in runs scored and stolen bases. So kind of a pair of freshmen that are really, really solid there. A couple other names to look out for: Tatum Johnson, Angelina Allen, Sydney Mallett, and Carly Ford. Definitely Tatum Johnson with this. I'm learning about this OPS. It's on base percentage plus slugging, I think is what it is. I had to think for a second there. And then the slugging is the SLG 0.593. That's really good from what I'm rating. I think 500 is like good, 550 is like okay, and 593, that's really, really solid from Tatum Johnson. Impressive. That's kind of that. It's a different way to look at like batting percentage for those of you who don't know. From my understanding, you get kind of the way my brain works is it's like you get so many points for one base, you get so many points for two bases, you get so many points for three bases or a home run, and they're weighted differently. So you earn more for earning more bases. And I believe what I read was 500 is one base for every two at bats. So that's 593, just over a base for every two at bats. Probably, I would imagine one is one base per at bat, which is like unheard of. So definitely Tatum Johnson stands off the page in that way. Angelina Allen, 3rd most hits at 53 and leads the team in walks. Sydney Mallett leads the team in RBIs and 11 homers. Wow, that's a lot of deep shots there. And then I mentioned Carly Ford, the rookie catcher, all Big 12 freshman team. Before we dive into kind of some of these matchups, it is important to kind of talk about how good this team is at a young age. Unbelievable freshman kind of class here. We could be looking at the next Oklahoma. Let's put it that way. Iowa State just dominating for, I don't even know how long Oklahoma did it for, but if these freshmen continue on this trajectory, I mean, the historic year that this softball team had, which we didn't really talk about, it just kind of quietly happened. Those freshmen can continue to do that. Now, I mentioned just how good it was. This team won 6 of 8 conference series. Okay. Now, Like I said, they'll be playing BYU or Houston, and BYU and Houston, both teams that took a series from the Cyclones this season. Obviously, BYU, the 6 seed, Houston, the 11 seed. Couple names for BYU, couple names for Houston. But just looking at the numbers recently between the teams, BYU leads the all-time series over Iowa State 10-2, and has outscored Iowa State by double, 46-23. So that's not ideal, I would say. The Cougars, as the 11 seed, were also the other team to beat the Cyclones in a series this season. Definitely some impressive numbers here, but across the last 10 outings, Iowa State is 5-5 against them. That's obviously a good sign. I think I'd rather take that. I'd rather take Houston over BYU, but I mean, if it's anything like the Iowa State BYU basketball games we got this season, shoot, we might have to sign up for some BYU actually, because man, those were, seems like we were always on the wrong side of them, but man, were they good games. They really were solid games. This softball team, definitely, obviously we've seen in the past just how successful they can be in this postseason, but a couple tough matchups in BYU and Houston. But this team is historically good, and that's not something you can say that often, right? But that's kind of been this year for Iowa State athletics. I mean, the football team, first time to ever get double-digit wins, and then wins in the Pop-Tart Bowl to make it 11. Basketball, actually historic in the sense that the highest AP poll ranking, and like the streak inside the top 10, things of that kind of nature. Unfortunately, yeah, it was a little bit of a disappointing end to the season, but still historic in some regards. And now with this softball team, highest finished in Big 12 history, 30-win season for the third time. Obviously going to be looking to keep that going here in this tournament, and I think they can. Obviously going to have a tough matchup, but to be the best, you got to beat the best. That's how it works, right? And so you're going to have to face some tough competition and come away with a win if you want to be the best. Like that's what happens. Unless, I guess, if you were competing against a 6U team, like you're probably going to be the best 6U team, probably not going to face a whole lot of super tough competition. But we're not doing that. To my knowledge, I'm pretty sure they'll be playing exclusively other D1 softball programs. So I know they're ready for it. They just got to go out there and get it done. Throw some pitches. And speaking of pitching, we can talk a little bit about the pitching. Lauren Sherman leads the way with a team low ERA of 3.43. She's pitched 134.2 innings, and has 64 punch-outs. Couple other names here: Jaden Ralston, Abby Hoon, Sammy Potvin, and Aziza Rodriguez round out the bullpen there. Overall, the Cyclones batting pretty well. I know I just said I was going to talk about pitching, but it's pretty much the Lauren Sherman show with obviously Ralston has made some saves, I believe. I was reading, and some freshmen, and Abby and Sammy. But overall, batting 289 for the team, 256 runs on 397 hits. That's pretty solid. Team has 130 extra base hits with a 233 RBI. For you guys that like the stats out there, collective 4.61 ERA. I mean, it's hard to really say that this team can't make noise. To me, the way I'm looking at this, the way I'm reading these things, and I'm looking up what these stats are, because baseball has like the most jargoned stats I think I've ever seen. So I had to really dive into some of these, and it looks like these are all pretty good. Like, I know we didn't all watch it, but this season was electric, and I feel like we should watch them tonight at 7:30. Whoever they have, be it Houston, be it BYU, Iowa State looking to extend that streak of getting at least one tournament win. We'll look to see it here. Looking to see you hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Making it to this point in the episode, shout out to you. Obviously, you're proving it's a Cyclone State. You can help do your part there. Until next time, Cyclone fans, sayonara.